Good afternoon and welcome back to the UN Bring Your Fire Live Dialogues. As we did have our first session which took place from 11:30 all the way to 12:30 where we were addressing the issue of gender-based violence. You know, Sia, these dialogues are of course a series of dialogues, and we did have some last week which were pertaining the role of education in fostering climate change, and there are some to come which do of course address pertinent issues in our society. And to all our viewers at home, a big welcome, and everyone who is streaming on other platforms. I can safely say I am proud to be a part of this crowd because it is made up of 99.9% of the youth of Eswatini, and they are here burning with questions, and they are definitely bringing their fire when it comes to the interaction, and we are more than ready to be addressing all of these issues and ask valid questions. But this one, Sia, is brought to you by UNDP and of course the World Food Program in partnership with USAID. My name is of course Tabelo Dlamini, and angisiko ngedwa sihamba nasiya solo sibambile.
Well said indeed. You know, I can just be a part of the audience myself. The way you brought your fire is really amazing. Ladies and gentlemen, once again, welcome to this session of the UN Bring Your Fire Live Dialogues. And you know, Tabelo, this is just a beautiful way to segue into youth employability and food security, especially because we were speaking about gender-based violence earlier on, and some of the issues raised were pertaining to how relationships tend to be transactional in a way. So now we just want to find out on how young people can earn a living and be practitioners of making sure that they are well employed and they have food security. But the moderator and the amazing panels will give us more information on that. Maybe ours is to just give away not just information, but tickets as well to the esteemed MTN Bushfire Festival. Isn't that exciting?
Of course, that is exciting. And we know that, Sia, these dialogues are definitely laying a foundation for our forthcoming Summit of the Future, which is to be held in September 2024, where the UN, part of every other country, including Eswatini, will participate in shaping a shared vision. I think that is very exciting for us as the youth, Sia. As you have already said, you know, we have a great list of panelists, and I think the topic namuhla, which is youth employability, can be easily translated as kuqashwa kwebantu labasha, but food security usangilahla kancane. I think the panelists, maybe they can translate it kuthi ngeSiswati umbeka kanjani food security.
Kahle. And for the viewers at home or also on YouTube, they can join us and engage with us and find out more about the dialogues as well as the schedules on all our social media platforms. It's at UN_Eswatini as well as MTN Bushfire. But with that being said, Tabelo, let us right away get into it. Mr. Sakile Shabangu.
Thank you very much, Sia and Tabelo. You're doing a great job. Amazing there. Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Sakile Shabangu from UNDP, and I will be your moderator for this exciting dialogue. I mean, the context in Eswatini is quite critical that we take it back and look at. We've got high youth unemployment issues in the country. We've got issues of food insecurity. We've got also issues of just living standards that are not as improving in the manner that we would want them to actually do that. So for today, we'll be discussing on youth employability and food security, really looking at the crux and the nexus of these two issues. In particular, our topic for today is empowering youth for sustainable development, navigating employment challenges, and food security in Eswatini. Without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, let me just hand over to my panelists to introduce themselves. To my right, I have Bakonzisi Ngesiswati, directors from the ministries that we have in the country. To my immediate right, I have Mr. Mluleki Dlamini, SME director and also a trade economist by heart. Please introduce yourself, sir.
Thank you very much, moderator. Good afternoon to participants. My name is Mluleki Sakile Dlamini. Also. I'm the Director of Micro, Small and Medium Enterprises in the Ministry of Commerce, Industry and Trade, a trade economist by trade. I'm also responsible for enterprise development and promotion in the ministry. Thank you.
Mr. Mbuisa, over to you, sir. An agricultural economist from the Ministry of Agriculture. Please introduce yourself, sir.
Yes, thank you very much, Sakile. And hello to all participants. I'm Howard Mbuisa. My other name is Velibanti. So I am currently the director for the Eswatini Agriculture Development Fund, which is under the Ministry of Agriculture, and I'm an economist by training. Thank you.
Mr. Mbuisa, just before we cross over to that side, there was a question that came from the presenters there. Yini if food security in Eswatini?
I've never tried to interpret it, but it's gondleka ngalokwenele.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mbuisa. With that, I will cross over to my left. I've got a young person, and I'm also young myself, and the crowd is also young, so this is our moment. Sakile is the president of the Youth Chamber of Commerce and a youth activist by heart. Please introduce yourself to the panel, to the audience.
So I'd like to introduce myself to the youth in the audience by asking you guys to actually repeat this after me. So firstly, the youth are accountable.
Accountable.
The youth has integrity.
The youth has integrity.
And the youth is professional.
The youth is professional.
Thank you.
Powerful. The youth is professional. I love that one. Next to Sakile, we have Mr. Bongani Langa, a partnerships personnel at Young Heroes, an organization that is very much in the ground, focusing on issues of how we're improving the living standards of young people. Please introduce yourself, sir.
All right. I'm glad to be here. My name is Bongani Langa. The work that I do is I put people who need help and people who can help them together. That is my job. At Young Heroes, we do that by partnering with governments, multinational organizations, multilateral organizations, and with young people. I'm glad to be here today. I'm a linguist by trade, but all I can tell you is where you start is not where you necessarily need to end. Thanks.
I think we need to do that, if that we're allowed to do that. I think it's always not fair on the moderator. You know, everyone else is giving like really nice introductions of themselves, and no one is introducing me. Maybe Sia and team. We can think about that next time. But ladies and gentlemen, we came here for the audience that we have on the ground and also online that are streaming on YouTube or on Facebook, as well as the Maswati that are watching on Eswatini TV. Like we've said, we're here to focus on two SDGs, SDG 8 and SDG 2, food security and decent work and economic growth in our country. Now, I've already painted the picture of where we are as a country. We've got high youth unemployment. In actual fact, if you take it back, 1.2 million people is what we have in our country as a population. 70% of that figure is people under the age of 35 years old. Now, the issues that we are having in the country of unemployment are largely affecting young people. The issues also of food insecurity are also affecting young people. Now, Mr. Dlamini, maybe even starting with you, understanding the context that we have. As an SME director that is constantly engaging with the constituency, how do you think SMEs in Eswatini can effectively integrate strategies for youth employability and innovative approaches to address food security? So mixing the two, what do you think SMEs can do?
Thank you very much again, moderator. As a ministry, we are developing and also implementing strategies that aim at ensuring that enterprises are being run by the youth. So what we normally find with the recent statistics of the FinScope survey that has been done of 2023, we discovered that about a quarter of those businesses that are currently in the country, which is about 69,000 businesses, so a quarter of those are operated by the youth. But what then becomes a challenge is financing of those businesses. So then there is that problem that we need to address in terms of what sort of mitigation that needs to be done, because the youth, we see that they do have that ability to run those businesses. But now they are challenged by this issue. How do we finance our businesses? How do we upscale our businesses? Then that is when we have the problem of high unemployment, because immediately they participate in meaningful businesses. We don't mean the informal sector. We mean meaningful businesses that can contribute to the economic growth of the country. So that is where then we see that kind of a challenge, that it is not an issue that only the youth alone can address or with the ministry, but we need other partners to come on board, like financial institutions, to say, can you come in and make sure that a certain percentage of your portfolio is reserved for the youth, to say, can we ensure that the youth is prioritized in terms of business loans? And also for us as government, we need to make sure that we provide the necessary capacity building to the youth, and they are ready to run their businesses, so that we avoid business failures at their early stages. So basically that is what we advocate for, the policy that supports such initiative. We have got the micro, small and medium enterprise national policy, which clearly states what needs to be done when we want to make sure that the youth participate fully in enterprise development and promotion. So it has a roadmap, a very detailed roadmap, who needs to be a player there. I'm glad the youth chamber representative is here. They've got a role to play, because we are saying that let's get the youth together and also discuss issues of how you run a business, entrepreneurship culture within that. Not that you go into business as a necessity, but you need to go there, because an entrepreneur is someone who goes there, take an opportunity that others do not realize that exists. Exploit it for the benefit, and the risk is there. But when someone just goes there because I do not have work, then that is a problem. So those are the kind of issues that we sit around the table and get all those other development partners who come and partner with us. We discuss all of these issues, and I'm glad that we will see some form of change within that, because employability will then reduce the issue of high unemployment. And when it comes to agriculture, it is so disturbing that our entrepreneurs in the country do not venture into agriculture more. The enterprises in the country are not mainly in agriculture. Agriculture is secondary. Most of them are in retail business, which is redistribution, getting things from outside the country and supplying it to end users. But it is not what we want the country to be. We really need to get into innovation. Let us design things, get into business, say this is a unique product that I have invented. There is also innovation that you can learn from others. Then from there you can commercialize it and take advantage of that. Can I end there, Moderator?
Thank you, Mr. Dlamini. Very, very lovely response there. I mean, just maybe recapturing the fact that he said 69,000 SMEs in the country, a quarter of those are businesses that are being run by young people. But then an interesting thing that you also shared is that from the 69,000, not a lot of them are in the agricultural sector. Now, for a country like ours that in terms of development is still, coming, we would imagine that the agricultural sector is being tapped into a whole lot more by young people. But I guess we'll be able to get those responses from the floor as well. Mr. Mbuyisa, with what Mr. Dlamini has now communicated regarding the intersectionality between young people and the SMEs in particular and food security or tapping into the agricultural sector, mine is 70% are young people. The most left behind people in a society or any society are usually young people and women. Now, in terms of these two demographic populations, how can we make sure that they're empowered to contribute effectively to achieving food security or sovereignty in the country, given what Mr. Dlamini has also shared?
Thank you very much, Sakile. Interesting topic. And addressing exactly the area where we need to develop as a country. In that regard, to say the issue of food sovereignty and employability of the youth, it's high up on the government agenda. As a country, we have a strategy now in the agriculture sector where the vision is to attain food abundance and wealth for Eswatini. So that is talking to the majority of our people, which we are saying is 70% of the population, the youth. It is their opportunity to go into that space and produce the food that we need as a country. Yeah. And then there are areas that we have looked at that is stimulating the production, looking at the high value crops that the youth can venture into. If you go to our Facebook page, that is where you will see and get a lot of information about these value chains. If you go to the, you just go to Google and type Eswatini Agriculture Integrated Information System, you will find information there on how much you can make if you go into those value chains and produce. Very few investments can give you 40% return on your investment in 3-4 months. So we have this information in our Eswatini Agriculture Integrated Information System. It's available for the youth to go into that site, check the opportunities that are there, and then decide. And then when it comes to the empowerment side, there are 3 critical areas. There is the issue of the land, that when you talk to youth, they always say, we don't have the land. This is the area that we need to work on. Every piece of hectare that is arable land, it's a job opportunity. If we can put that land into use, you can employ at least minimum of 1 person to work that land and produce food for the country. There is the area of access to finance. This is where the director was also coming in. Government has come up with the Eswatini Agriculture Development Fund, which is trying to bridge the gap. The things that were preventing young people from accessing credit from our financial institution, the Agriculture Fund is coming in to meet and reduce the risk of financial institution for borrowing to young people and women. Okay. Because we are going to look at the investment in infrastructure. Most of you have taken your business plans to financing institution. I'm sure they've told you to go back and put up the fencing in the land that you want to work. Or they've told you to go and do the irrigation system. If it's animals, they told you to go back and bring up the housing infrastructure for your animals. So the Agriculture Fund is coming in to intervene there and say, give this guy the finances who are going to support the investment on the infrastructure. Yeah. So it's one area which is enabling the youth to come in. And then there is the issue of markets, where also we have come up with the integrated information system that is going to help identify the markets and the producers so that there is a linkage on who is doing what, where, and who is going to take up that product. So also on that area, we think there is need for affirmative action where we can have preferential markets for the youth. Say we enter into a PPP with the private enterprises or just the retail shop to say you are selling potatoes in your shelves. How is it that we can get into an agreement that 30% of this produce in the shelf should be sourced from our local youth? So it's an opportunity that we think it can be exploited, especially because now government have a facility to handle the private sector through the Agriculture Development Fund. So it's an area that we think it's very important. And there are also other opportunities. The ministry is trading a lot on agro-processing and value addition. This is where we think it's a big opportunity for youth and women. As we say in our businesses, you find that there are few that are in agriculture. But if we create the link, venture into value addition processing, and that creates a market for those who are in the on-farm production. So it's an opportunity that we think our youth can exploit in our women. In most cases, you find that food is prepared by youth and women. So it's their area to go into. Even when you go to big companies that are processing, you find that there are youth, there are women who are actually doing it inside the firm. So there's an opportunity to explore and come up with businesses that can add value to our product and reduce importation, thus attaining the food sovereignty that we need as a country. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much, Mr. Mbuisa. Very, very informative there. I mean, just thinking about the things that you've touched on, government has a vision for food abundance. Now, for that food abundance to actually be attained, we need to work with the young people for them to actually go into the agricultural sector. I can see them nodding their heads. Just maybe to note that in the audience today, we have majority young people from the Luengo campus. So you will be interrogated on the things that you're talking about quite sternly. Mr. Mbuisa also touched on the issue of security of tenure, being the issue of securing land as young people in the country. This is also going to be something I know is going to come from the fore as to how are we improving that so that young people can access the land for them to farm, even before we can get to agro-processing and value addition. The both of you actually touched on something very critical, the issue of access to finance. The number of SMEs that actually go through the channel of becoming SMEs, we've heard that a majority fail, not because of just access to finance, but because of a majority of other issues. But now, how are we concretely making sure that the young people in the country are capacitated to, when the funding is there, to be ready for it? But we'll take it back there. Let's just cross over to the other side now. Are you all right? You seem to be deep in thought. Mr. Lang, I'm going to start with you. This one is very, because on this end, we're talking about employability through food security or through the agricultural sector. The other component that is there is employability through private sector employing young people or government employing young people. We've recently seen from the recent national skills audit, there's an issue of skills mismatch. What we are having in the university being produced is not what the job market is now looking for. But what we have seen quite sternly or being pushed forward is the aspect of vocational skills training. And a couple of ministries are talking about it, development partners as well as local CSOs are also talking about that. I just want to find out from you, we'll come back to the employability aspect of things, but when it comes to vocational skills training and development programs, how can we make sure that they are tailored to meet the evolving needs of the job market in Eswatini, because that also translates to the young people being employed, but also some of them starting income-generating projects as well.
Absolutely, absolutely. There, and you'll forgive my voice, it comes and goes.
No, you're a linguist.
But nothing works without partnerships.
Yeah.
Nothing works without people working together. Iluyengo, it means all of you do math. So let's do this. 1 times 1 times 1 times 1 times 1 is, please don't say 5. Is? All right. But if I go 2 times 2 times 2 times 2 times 2, that's 32.
Left the conversation, me.
If I go 3 times 3 times 3 times 3 times 3, that's 243. So adding a little to each partnership multiplied together gives you an outcome that is a lot more than just adding what you have on your own. So there needs to be partnerships between 3 key stakeholders, in my opinion. It needs to be the government, it needs to be schools, and it needs to be the companies themselves. Those 3. Governments are there to provide infrastructure. They're there to provide an enabling environment for companies to come into the country, favorable tax situations both for companies and for the government. They need to provide infrastructure to travel so that the trucks that people buy don't get wasted on the roads. They need to make sure that the legal systems can enforce contracts, etc., that we're not going to nationalize tomorrow and then tell you to just go back home. Governments make sure that that is in place. That is the job of the government, to look at the gaps that the directors have been speaking of, creating policies that come in and address those gaps, exactly what Babe Mbuisa and Babe Dlamini have been saying. That is the job of government. The job of the schools is to make sure that they're producing candidates for the market that the market can take in and use. That they're giving you degrees that actually mean something for this economy. That they're preparing you for a world where you're competing with a child from China who has more resources than you do, but you're competing with them for a job that's here, Eswatini. Do you know that if you get an MRI in this country, that MRI is then taken to India to be interpreted and then brought back to the country? An MRI you did at Mbabane Clinic, right? You're competing with that person who is as skilled as you are, probably with more resources than you have for the same job. So it's to make sure that we can compete in a truly global environment with changing landscapes where we've entered the age of AI. It levels the playing field in so many different ways. So the job of schools is to make sure that you're prepared to go out. The jobs of companies is to make sure that when they come into a country, they bring the necessary skills, the necessary tools to come into a country to produce, right? Make sure that they're not just coming here to take and go. They're plowing back into the schools that produce the people that they employ. They're plowing back into letting the market know this is where business is going. Can you educate people in this direction? It is important for them to also create finishing schools, because the fact that you're at UNESWA, UNESWA Luyengo, does not mean, trust me when I say this, that when you leave and get employed by Monsanto tomorrow, you'll be ready to work there on day one. The demands of the classroom and the demands of the corporate world are two very different things. And therefore, the job of the industry is to make sure you're prepared for that world also. But that's what we want to do. We want that tripartite to work. The schools, the government, and businesses. Everyone should be able to then work together. I have a few minutes. Vocational schools, I'll say this. Everyone's always going to need an electrician and a plumber. Everyone is going to need someone to put up their internet. We will never outsource that to AI. Everyone, it's going to be weeks or years before we outsource bricklaying to AI or roofing to AI, right? So the government has come in and is shedding light on a very important part of our economy. That is something that young people can do today, and you can grow in it, etc. I'll end with this story. Do I have a minute? Do I have 1 minute? I grew up with a Mozambican father. My father is from Mozambique, came in 1966. We were born in the country, but my father was not. My father's mentality came from how the Portuguese education system was. When they were young, they looked at certain things that the country needed, and then they started channeling them into certain careers. So my father came, my father's a theologian, my father's a teacher, my father is also a builder. So he preached, but the way that we got educated is my dad would go build Monday to Friday and preach on Sunday, right? So that's how we got to, only because that's how he was channeled. So he always looked at me and thought, you should build like I build. But the only thing that I had ever seen when it came to building was, building is for these guys who come from Mozambique and are helped by my father, trying to get a skill to get to South Africa to work. That's all I saw. But I had never seen where a plumber plumbs a whole building and he drives off in a Rolls Royce. I'd never seen that part of it. So vocational is the way to go.
Yes. It certainly deserves a round of applause. Maybe just before we cross over to you, Sakile, Bongani, you lost me in the numbers. The multiplications of how you got to 243, I think we need to talk about that. Because, I mean, I know you also didn't get it. Yeah, we mustn't include mathematics, yeah. Next time, please. But key takeaway, Bongani is basically saying that vocational skills can be mixed with formal employment. Because again, the times have changed. Even the roles of traditional employment are not the same. So as young people, if we start thinking outside the box of how you can actually mix something that could be a hobby and still make your money and still try to infiltrate the job market and just use the two things as you move forward. But I think you also touched on something very important around partnerships. That's concerted efforts. Government working together with private sector, working together with the local civil society organizations, working with the development partners, working with Bushfire even, sort of coming together to create something for engagement that can take us to the next level. And I think this is what the other countries, basishaya ngayo nyalo as a nation, they are concentrating on what is needed by the country and sort of pushing all efforts towards that. And I think we are, to a certain extent, as government and as civil society. And I say this because if you look at the amount of noise that is around vocational skills, we need to start looking at it as, what are our hobbies? You know, I can't put together planks to save my life, but what can I do that can also make me money on the side? Perhaps I can paint, perhaps I can do something that I can do during the weekend and couple it with my job. I actually know of young people that are doing 3 jobs at the same time, and they're making twice their salary from one end. Think about it. Sakila, we're crossing over to you. Now the reason, you know, with all due respect, we're under 35, you and I. Old people that we have here talking about things, eh? And talking about young people, they're talking about us. But I think the issues that are facing young people can only be expressed by young people expansively. So this is your chance now. We need to talk as young people in the audience together with but these old young people also need to be schooled now about what is happening contemporarily in this space and how, as young people, we have a voice to actually inform how these things can sort of change. My question for you is, what are the primary barriers for youth unemployment in the country, and how can they be overcome? And I'll give you this opportunity so that we can also cross over into the audience, because we also need to get those discussions. Thank you.
Thank you for the question, Sakile. And you know, I really wish I hadn't spoken after Mr. Langa, because wow, now I just have so much pressure. I'm like, I was almost like, stop, please. But my 6 minutes may be up. But for me, I am here to highlight the barriers of youth unemployability. And I know this is something that we all know because we are youth and we are the ones who are going through these issues. And it's been something that we've been hearing at different dialogues, you know. How long has youth unemployability been a thing in the country? Probably ever since you were born. And we've been talking about the barriers since then. So I'm just going to make a long list, and I'm going to ask you to actually click 3 times if they actually connect with you. So the first barrier to employability is the high employment rate. Do you agree with that? And there's limited job creation, a skills mismatch, a lack of work experience, education quality and relevance, and lastly, economic challenges. So we all know this. Thank you for responding, because I wanted to check if we really know what the problems are. And I hope the government was also clicking, because, you know, it's important that we are all in the same page. Overcoming these barriers, I know this is something also that you guys know. You know the solutions to your problems. So I'll also ask you to click for these again, just so we know, just so the government and the agencies know that we know our problems and we know the solutions to them. So the first one is enhancing education training. And you've got promoting entrepreneurship, strengthening public-private partnerships. So an example of this would be educational institutions and businesses collaborating to design training programs. I know UNESCO Luyengo has it. It had it through the Dairy Science program. but it stopped somewhere. So we just have to go back to actually bringing that back in order. And then we also have encouraging private sector investment in youth-oriented projects and enterprises. And then there's work experience opportunities, policy and economic reforms. So yes, these are the solutions to the barriers that I had listed up. So it looks like we have created a framework that could actually help develop youth in the country. I hope everybody else sees this and notes this. And so now we are contextualizing this because actually I got that from AI. Yes, so it's not too hard to stumble upon solutions. The hard part is the collaboration part, and that is where we are missing it. That is why Mr. Bongani Langa, as he was speaking so profoundly on 1 times 1 times 1, it's equals to 1. And then there's a 2 times 2 times 2, and then there's the mathematics there that Sakile was adding up. I don't mind, because to me it was just like, this is the truth. We are not collaborating well enough for us to stop experiencing these conditions that we wake up to every morning as young people. So contextualizing this to our community, we have Ingundla. So there's an issue with Ingundla, you know, with the youth. When you mention, I've got 3 minutes left, Ingundla. So I asked Mr. Bongani Langa, because he's a man that I've admired since university. I was also a Luyengo student. That was my alma mater. So I asked him to help me define what an Ingundla is. And he says it's a central point for umphakathi and the community to interact. So at the youth chamber, we are not really inexperienced workforce, but we know that the importance is in the research that we do. So what we did is, because we understand that Eswatini is in the context of Tingundla, that is where we all gather in our communities to actually speak of solutions. And the Ngundla has a council that has representatives that actually go to there's MPs, members of parliament within the Tingundla. And we then identified, so we developed a research paper called a white paper. With AI, my teachers are in the audience, so it used to take me a month, almost a year, to bring together a review paper because I was a naughty student. And now it takes me almost a day. So we have compiled a white paper that actually highlights the issues now of the context of Eswatini and the youth employability. So the first one is data scarcity. We have limited data on demographics, economic activity, and infrastructure. And the second one is resource constraints. There's a lack of financial resources at Ingundla to implement large-scale infrastructure projects. I've got 2 minutes left. And then there's a skills gap. Upskilling or reskilling of current workforce to meet the demands of a growing and diversifying economy within the Tingundla. So these are the solutions that we have. These are the barriers at Tingundla level. And the solutions are, firstly, as unemployed youth as a development solution. So we have a big workforce as a country. So the reason they are coming to hunt us in the country to go and pay us quadruple what a CEO would get paid here just for doing farm work in another country is because we have skills. You know, human resources are very valuable skill, but we don't realize that there's a high number of unemployed youth, but they are still sitting at home even today, even tomorrow, even next week. But we don't understand that this is the workforce that is actually an asset to the country towards development. We cannot say that there are issues, we need resourcing when there is so much young people who can come to Tingundla Tabo. Kuhlehla is not kuhamba uyohlakula emphakathi, but it's identifying a problem that you have in your Ingundla and solving it. Most of our Tingundlas are not inclined to digitization, and we are the youth. We can bring those solutions. So it also is upon us as Bamhlabasha Kuti City Bege out there in order to serve the country so that the country may serve us back. Ngicela nje ukugcina lapho ungaze ngi.
Young people in the house. Are young people in the house? Are young people in the house? Okay. We are majority in this building and in this country. Young person has spoken, sharing the challenges and the barriers. She's also come up with the solutions that I would say you have come up with the solutions. I don't know who this AI person is, but when we find him or her, teachers, we need to start. There's a problem here. It is here now, eh? All right. We've heard some of these things that Sakile is talking about, the problems, skills mismatch, economic challenges, and even other issues that she has also spoken to, but also the solutions more than anything. I want to take it back to the floor and possibly online if we do have questions. What are your thoughts? Love it. You see, when you start seeing questions like this, I will ask my brother Courtesy to assist with the mic moving around and those questions. What are your thoughts about what we've discussed? This is an opportunity for you to play a critical role in informing policymakers and people on the ground on what the change needs to be.
All right, thank you very much, Sakile. Thank you to our panelists. And once again, we're out here talking about youth employability and food security at the Bushfire Bring Your Fire Zone. Very quick one. Thank you to all the viewers at home, live streaming, whether you're on Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, Mixit, Mic33, you're welcome. But what we're going to do is we're going to invite the audience in the house to bring your fire by posing your questions. You've heard the submissions made by our panelists. I will request that you keep your questions or comments very brief. We are on a live broadcast. Can I see the hands of the ones who have the questions? I'll start with my sister.
Okay, thank you so much. I need to stand for this one. So my name is Tidiswa Mhlanga. A JA mentor and peer guidance and counselor volunteer, amongst other hats I wear. So I wrote down my question here. There's a couple of them. First, now I've been working with young people in 4 countries, Eswatini, Botswana, Lesotho, and Mozambique, for about 7 years. And the challenges that they face differ. One that stood out the most, or 2 of them rather, it's on employment and education, which in our country we lag behind on. Now, as a result, I've since decided to work on a project that is aimed at equipping young people in as far as opportunities that are available for them locally and internationally are concerned. So, how can the organizations that are available, especially with our panelists who are here today, assist with especially SDG 1 and 8, helping to eradicate these things? So basically on the project that I'm working on, how can we assist with that one? And then also, Babe there, I forgot his name, but so, yes, right next to you. Yes, sir. Mr. Dlamini, thank you so much. So he mentioned that they are willing to assist wherever the youth needs assistance. Now, my students, amongst the other heads I wear, they're working on a project that will help with the agricultural sector. I think it would have to be a one-on-one conversation because it's still on the a work in progress. So now I'll be knocking on the doors on that one. That's just basically it. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much, Sis.
Maybe we can just take maybe 3 and then come back this side.
Sure. Let me go to the other side of the room. We are asking the panelists questions. We just heard from a lady, gender equality and stuff.
Sanbonani. Sibia Muzika Baba is my name. My question, I'm trying to integrate it kutibe inte eyodwa nje. Siswati. Ngicela ukuthi ngibute nako noma ngisho nako maybe to make this thing I'm integrating in the head. So kukanjena. Ngishawule tibarota Mr. Langangalana 1 times 1 times 1 times 1. So tingli mete mine because I believe in working alone. So I have worked alone, but ngase ngishawule indaba yemali ke kuthi ke kube zimali. I do have a business plan, I do have the land. So Mr. Sakile Dlamini uyangizwa. So my question or it's a comment or what? But Eswatini, why is the country, oh, it's a question if you start with why is the country persistent on producing employees if it is complaining about lack of job availability, employability? Why are we keeping on producing employees? Because I'm from Liengo. Lapa Liengo, there was this thing, but in orientation to graduation. I once asked the question, and then on that question, they would bring the employers to come and pick their fruits. But mine or my head or my mind, I like to be an employer. I want to own my own businesses because go out the whole country is over leg number ibikhala ngokuthi ufuna ukudevelopa bekusena 2022 by then. Okay, singiyaqeda. Ibikhala ngokuthi ufuna kungenzeka kanjani ukuthi ucreate employees yet ungenawo umsebenzi? Why is the country not creating people who are going to create jobs and everything? Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. Do we have another question, maybe at the back? I'll come back to this side. We are moving around the room as much as we can. Please remember to keep your questions and your comments very brief.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Eswatini, and mine is really not a question. It's a comment on what Sakile said. Another solution would be, Sakile, her. It would be, can you please retire, guys? Why do we have old people working on contracts? Why are you 68 and still a lecturer? Go home. Give us opportunities.
Sorry, what's your name? Eswatini. The views expressed by Eswatini are Eswatini's and the majority of the room. I want to throw back to the panel. Do you guys want to address some of the questions that have been asked before we take more questions from the floor?
Sure. I think they're courtesy. I think they know who the questions were directed to. I'll start from this side, and then we'll go that side. I'm not even going to be getting involved. I also have a similar question. The last one, Eswatini, thank you. Yeah, Mr. Lamini, over to you.
Thank you very much. The first one, Mhlanga, yes, I think we will bilaterally discuss that project. We are willing to work with you. Whatever the request is, we will look at it and find the appropriate assistance that we can provide. SBIA, why is the country continuing to produce employees than employers? So basically what we are doing as government now, we're introducing the curriculum for entrepreneurship at school. We've started off with JA. We've got quite a number of programs that we're doing in school and out of school programs, working with JA to pursue and encourage entrepreneurship at a very early stage and also late in life. The out of school will address that. And also, we're working with the university at some point to have part of the curricula at the university to have entrepreneurship courses, even if you're doing science or even if you're doing engineering and all of those things. It's work in progress. It will come. Just wait for it. Thank you.
There's that one there, but maybe you're handing it over to Mr. Mbuisa.
I'd actually like to address that question up there. The thing about life is that it's quick. It is very, very quick. My daughter's turning 25. She was 5 yesterday. And I'm realizing that I don't feel ready to put her out in the world. Not even now. She's out in the world, she's in Europe, she's not here, but I still don't feel ready. Life is very quick. I remember times where I would walk into a room and I was the youngest person there. And now I walk into rooms, I look around. Not only am I the biggest, but I'm also the oldest. But I realize that my age and his age and their age represent continuity of what we've seen from the people ahead of us and what we wish for the people behind us. So you guys want us. You don't want us gone, because a vacuum leaves the elderly who cannot help you because they don't know what we know, and the young people who cannot rise to where we are because they haven't learned what we have to teach. So we are essential.
All right, very, very interesting conversation. And just to piggyback on that, there's a rapper called Common Sense. He said, if we want to see change, we will need to understand that we will need the wisdom of the old and the energy of the young combined. It's not one or the other. We need both of them to coexist at the same time. Do we have any other questions? All right, I'll come back to you, sis.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Sibusiso Mabuza from Liengo. I have too many questions, but I'll just try and run through them quickly. My first question or comment is the redundant red tape that the government has placed on the Dinkhundla system to access youth financing. And then my next question or comment is based on what are the necessary things that we as the youth can do in order for us to be. One of the speakers mentioned that we are not producing at a primary level, agriculturally speaking. So what can we as the youth then do to come into the table and help government to be primary in the production or specifically for agriculture? My next question is, how is the Trade and Commerce branch of government attempting to bridge the gap specifically for markets between large-scale businesses and small-scale businesses to compete in the same market but be able to, especially for the small-scale businesses, for them to be able to compete with the large-scale, especially for the supplying of like meat, supplying of vegetables, etc., etc. My last and final question is regards to the arts and culture, specifically the music and entertainment industry. For an artist in Swaziland to be able to receive, let me say, money from their proceeds of the music that they release, they need to be registered to companies in South Africa like the SAMRO and RISA, if I'm not mistaken. So what are we doing as Swaziland to address that specific portion of the youth, because we all know that the youth is talented, we can sing, we can act, we can dance, we can do so many things, but the government is not doing anything to protect our artists. Thank you.
Sorry, just maybe a quick one, Tommy, before we continue. Can I please just take it back to the host there? We've got tickets that need to be won before we shut part of the broadcast, but we are still continuing with the discussions. I'd just like to take it back there, and then we'll continue with starting from that question over there.
Thank you.
Yeah, well said indeed right there. You know, I must say I got caught off guard because I was still taking that in. There was a lot of questions there, mouthful ones, and a very productive and informative dialogue we just had, right?
Yeah.
No, Was it informative? Yeah. Have you brought your fire? Yeah. Have you brought your fire? Tabelo, have you brought your fire?
Indeed. See, I did hear my baby boomers asala kwesha kancane. You know, to allow the Gen Zs to step up, it was a very informative session. Thank you so much to our panelists, you know, for giving us the best information they could in regards to the specific topic. But there are tickets to be won, and I think that's the most interesting part for the youth. But tomorrow, these dialogues do continue. We do have another session of 2 different dialogues. But now I think we should hand it over to the iconic courtesy to ask the crowd the questions. If openvulile engage this time around, we remember how it goes. It's 15 seconds to answer. First hand up answers the questions, and it's pertaining anything that is said or anything around you, really. So look around and be inspired, I guess.
Over to you, Black Superman.
All right, so who wants to win a ticket? Okay, we're going to start right here from exactly where I am. So, the first question is, for a ticket to the 17th edition of the MTN Bushfire Festival, who am I talking to? Which one of you guys am I talking to? This one here. The back row trusts you, brother. Okay. How long has the MTN Bushfire UN Bring Your Fire Zone partnership marriage been in existence and has been different about these dialogues this year? He says he doesn't know the answer to that question. I'll give it to somebody else who, Sia, please handle the floor. There's people down there who believe they know the question. How long has the MTN Bushfire UN Bring Your Fire
Sorry,
Zone
my brother,
partnership?
sorry. Before you ask the questions, the hands are already up. I don't know how they know the questions. So before you ask the questions, can I have the hands down? And then you may, please.
How long has the MTN Bushfire UN Bring Your Fire Zone partnership been in existence? And how has it been different this year?
"17 years."
He says
that's why I gave it
he
to
says
him.
the partnership has been in existence for 17 years. That is false. The MTN Bushfire Festival has been in existence for 17 years, but this partnership, no.
So we keep red t-shirts?
The audience is voting for the guy in the red t-shirt.
Yeah, I wanted to say 16 years.
Come on, guys.
These people don't want to win the ticket. Guys, come on, guys. Bring your fire. This is your moment to win the ticket. One last chance on this side of the room. One last chance on this side of the room.
Speaking of gender, she's female.
How long has the MTN Bushfire UN Bring Your Fire Zone partnership been in existence?
2 years.
Whoop, whoop.
2 years. And I'm looking at my panel, and that is correct. So, ladies and gentlemen, we have a winner of a MTN Bushfire 17th edition ticket. Now, the next and final question is, please, you remember Lakoche started with this, and she invited everyone to participate. Please share the chant back the Youth Parliament line that was shared at the introduction of the dialogues. And if you get everybody else to participate, even better.
Are you still happy with the flow, though?
Yeah, go ahead, and then I'll take one back here.
We are accountable.
Yeah.
We have integrity. We are professional.
Pangela Kulu, is that correct? Absolutely. Ladies and gentlemen, another winner of the ticket. All right, can I throw it back to the hosts?
All righty, thank you so much, Courtesy, for that. I think we'll be seeing more young faces at the MTN Bushfire Festival. We have, unfortunately, reached the closing time for this specific dialogue. Thank you so much to our lovely crowd. I do not know if they have any extra burn in them to ask more questions, but I think the panelists can allow that, can they?
Yeah, certainly. We're here for the questions.
If there are any questions that you would like to ask, you're more than free to do that after we close off the show. Isn't that right, Sia?
Indeed. But maybe before we open to another batch of questions, they might want to reflect or rather react to the previous questions that were asked, yeah?
Certainly. I think we can start with the first question from the gentleman in the colorblind. That looks like red. Mustard. Yellow. Orange. Mr. Dlamini, you're also wrong. Maybe whilst there's still, maybe we can take another question.
I was here a couple of seconds ago, excuse me.
Sanbonan, kwamaxi question, comment. Ngicabanga ukuthi silokushile lokuyi challenge kakhulu to the youth is the hierarchy from government to the youth yinze kakhulu. kuphuma 100,000 kuhulumende kufika 10 rand la kimi asekasilungisele uhulumende ukuthi labantu labala before le mali yofika kule youth asebanciphe nangabe kuyakhoneka ayisuke directly.
Yes, sir. I love that.
Thank you so much. My name is Mangoba Mhlanga, and I have kind of suggestions here. Lemphakathini lapho khona nasithola khona indzawo ukuthi sikhone kwenta le agriculture ukhanza ukuthi abafundi lokusinika le ndzawo bathi kufuna ube ushade ukhanza ukuthi thina iyouth esishada sibancane ngenza bathi sifuna sifuna le ndzawo sifuna kulima. So besicela ukuthi in this kind of dialogues babe khona maybe labantu representer laba lekubungibona lapho basibukele le ndzawo because ukhanza sishada sibancane sesingeda le nhlupheko sekunyuka yona unemployment. Ngiyabonga.
Oh, wow. All right, I just need to take another question from the floor just to balance things out. Excuse me.
Maybe just taking it back with the questions that we have. Panelists are still thinking about them, noting them. I think I see something from Tabelo and Sia. They were.
Yes, of course. Unfortunately, we are wrapping up for the live session, which is on Eswatini TV, but we do have many streaming platforms, and we have, stretch the time on those platforms so we can enjoy more of these interactions and get more information out of them, Sia. But unfortunately for now, from myself and you, any other comment before we close off?
Well, other than saying, let us continue bringing our fire for advocacy, as this is an outcome of the partnership of UN in Eswatini as well as MTN Bushfire Festival. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you. This has been an amazing, amazing dialogue and session as a whole. The conversation, however, does not end here. It continues behind the scenes on our social media platforms. Once again, at UN in Eswatini as well as MTN Bushfire.
And of course, on Eswatini TV. If you follow those platforms, you are guided to when these dialogues will be taking place. For now, it is good day.
All right, not good day for us, eh? We're still here. I see you starting to think about running away. So where's it starting? It's starting this side, eh? Very critical this side. So let's hand over and then we'll cross over to Sakile and Bongani on my end. Colleagues, strategize.
Okay. No, I just want to take the one that by Busiso, which speaks on the issue of youth financing in terms of the challenges that they are having with the financiers or the fund itself, youth revolving fund or other financiers, youth specifically. So it is a fund that is operated by government at very concessional rates in terms of you wouldn't get the rates in a financial market, those interest rates that you are getting. So the challenges that that fund faces mainly, it is a revolving fund. So basically, it relies on the government recapitalizing it. So at some point, you find that there's a high rate of default in that particular period. So the coffers, you find that are not sufficient to cover. That is why you will see in some instances, they will have a season to say, let us put on hold issuance of loans. Because for every scheme that you run, you are not operating a grant. If it is a revolving fund, you're expected, or the operation of it is that it needs to repay itself and also re-lend again. So it is now a rotating or revolving fund. So that is the principle. So there is no one to blame in this instance, because it would mean that, there are no funds to on lend. So that is why they then take that period, if it is the revolving fund. Otherwise, banks are able to cover, even if there are high default rates, they are able to stabilize the market. Let me come to the artist who needs to register in South Africa for royalties. We've got Copyright Society and neighboring rights here in Eswatini. You need to see them. They are in Babane. You can register with them, then you'll be able to get your royalties locally. They can always have, I think they'll be signing an MOU with all of these South African companies that are collecting on behalf of local artists, whereby they will then remit to the country. In terms of the procedure, yes, the disbursement of funds, and you find that the funds, I'm not sure what happens here. You're saying the funds, lama stages, but it's not supposed to be the case, because whatever loan you apply for, it is at that rate and at that premium. So whatever levels are there, it is just only procedural levels, not to say that they are cost related. So it's basically something that is very abnormal, which I can say, because if it is a loan of 100,000 at an interest rate of say 8%, you should get that, and it should be that case. I'm not sure about the land allocation by getting married, which fuels poverty. You need to talk to your chief. Thank you. Can I hand over to you, Chief?
Thank you very much. I liked the one by Setsabile, saying that people should retire. I think it's very important. Let us not fall into that trap as the youth, because we wait for employment for a long time. Time is short. Mr. Langa talked about it. So you better chase your dream now. If you feel like being an entrepreneur, just chase that dream and go full force into it. You will make it. We will have the employers if you do that. If you wait for the right job, then you won't want to retire when the time comes, because you will not have made the money that you think is there in employment. So let's get on with that. And then what can the youth do to help government attain the food sovereignty that we're talking about? As government push on with the commercialization of agriculture, there's going to be a great need of technology. And the youth are the people to provide the solutions to the agriculture sector in the food production. So as more investments are being put up irrigation schemes and stuff like that, people have to bring the technology to monitor the crop, to ensure that there is innovative tools that can be used to grow the crop, to harvest the crop, to process the crop into different commodities. So that's the area that we think youth should come in. And also, we want new farmers in the agriculture sector. The farming that has been happening is such that it's done at household level. We want it to be a business. The farming that has been happening, it has not been growing. It's just that field that is being plowed year in, year out until I grow old. It doesn't expand. Now we want farmers who will go into production, start small, grow their production enterprises, access more land. Government is working on a mechanism that is going to allow renting of land, even on SNL. You should be able to borrow land, have an agreement, expand your production. We are also inviting private title deed farm owners to develop land and make it ready for production, so that I can be able to lease land that is ready to produce potatoes. I should be able to lease land that is ready to produce a certain commodity. So the partnerships that we're talking about are really going to help us to attain this. And then on the issue of marketing, allowing smallholders a market share to be able to also supply their produce. It's one area that we are looking at. Again, I invite you, if you go to your Goodly and search Eswatini food system pathways, you will find a document there. It's outlining the commitments that government have made to try and bridge the gap between small holder farmers and the industry. We were saying we're promoting agriculture industry associations. As I make an example of potatoes, we want all the players in the potato value chain to have one strategy and know all the smallholder farmers that are producing potatoes. When are they planting? Where is their produce going? So that they have a market share in the potato industry. So we are promoting that, and we are saying register in the Agriculture Integrated Information System so that we know you, we know the product that you are getting into, so that you can have a market share in the supply of that commodity. So these are the game changers that we are promoting in the agriculture sector, and they are developed such that they are inclusive in nature. Women, youth should be able to participate there and be supported.
Maybe let me just cut you there, Mr. Mbuisa, so I can allow some others to actually respond. But I guess the conversation here is information sharing, because I'm seeing the young people also nodding their heads, meaning that there is an element of the information not reaching to where they are so that they can do what needs to be done for them to continue with everything they're doing. Any reflections on your end from the questions that we have received?
Maybe for me, I would speak on the part of, I know Sibusiso talked about the redundant red tape for getting funding, and that's actually an issue really that the youth come up with a lot of the time. And in dealing with this particular issue, we have to be very honest as young people about the application process. How honest are you about your product, first of all, before you come in and start your market research, and you start writing your business plan, and you start filling out the form? I understand that there's a lot of, the process could be tedious, but it's sure guaranteed to get you the money that you need for your loan. So in understanding that, because with your integrity and your honesty, that's when the hierarchy that he speaks about, Gutsi, the money from the top actually gets less, and when we get to the bottom, it becomes even, there's no money. In you being honest about your process, we are then able to identify, Gutsi, oh, there's corruption here. Because I know that young people will tell me that they've been applying, and then I'll tell them, because we advocate for youth. Can I register your name? Which Ngundla are you from? And they give me all of the information. And then sometimes you find that the azangel hamba lel pep, like tina ebugwini or something. But then because the mind is such a trickster, you actually start believing guts now al hambisa lel pep, and you start pointing guts yey inginga ilapa. So we have to be very honest. If we want to get out of this mess that we are in, this mess of unemployment and poverty, we have to be honest about our current situation. And then the people that are holding the resources will release them. Because there's no way that you can hold on to resources when you are dealing with something that is straightforward. It becomes weird, not just for the local community, but also for the national community. Passing on from there, I'll talk about what Eswatini said. Eswatini is actually is an entrepreneur who used to do my nails in university. And she's asking why the elders aren't retiring. And maybe my answer for that is that I didn't get to the last part of the collaboration with Tingundla. This is actually something that's very close to my heart, because I noticed that as the youth, when we don't understand something, we are very quick to throw stones at it. So we need to understand that in this current condition of this country that we are in, there's a constitution. And that constitution speaks of a system of Tingundla. You don't have to become aggressively or emotionally at it, but understand that that is fact and it's basic. And there's actually 365 chiefdoms in the country. I didn't know that. I just got that information today. And there's 55 Tingundlas. So in understanding that, I'm not saying you are submitting to anything, but you are understanding your standpoint as an individual. And in understanding your standpoint, then you will devise a strategy and identify organizations that will pull you to your success. Because success is actually a generational thing. We can't do away with the elders. The elders have wisdom. And then from the white paper that we generated as the Youth Chamber, we came up with 3 solutions. The first one that I had mentioned was unemployed youth as a development solution. The second one is retired professionals as advisory committees. And this is all integrating the collaboration for continuity in Tingundla, because Siati with Tingundla, they have an Ingundla Council that I had mentioned. There's the member of parliament. And in addressing, because this actually brings it closer to home. Because oftentimes when you're in university, you actually have to go to your Ingundla in order to get things to work. If you're looking for Wi-Fi, there's most probably Wi-Fi at your Ingundla center, or there's an extra computer, because the government really is trying to develop these centers as much as possible to align the digital divide between us and the developed country. And then Gulama Solutions Lawa, this was me trying to market my organization, were all fair and square as a framework facilitator. Because as organizations, we are tasked with the role of being facilitators within our communities, because we don't just get the gasoline to run around just because for the sake of running around. We do that because we want to bring in the frameworks that have been devised by the policies that the government has advised on, because we don't thumb suck solutions, no. We look at them, we project them from a statistical perspective, and that's where the government would develop the National Development Plan and the SME policy. And then we come in as organizations, we see how are we running with this to the communities. But first, we have to identify the communities that we're working with. What are the problems? For us, it's the youth. And what are the issues of the youth? And how do we bring solutions now from a very bottom-up perspective? Because hierarchy also, in Eswatini, the Tingundla system actually says that the development has to start from a bottom-up perspective. So in understanding this also, it has helped me as a young person who was very frustrated by the conditions that I was in, to see where the problem actually lied. And then in also helping me to get up to address this issue each and every day, because it won't be an easy step for us to get out of the sticky situation that we're in.
Yeah, I was about to stop you, actually. Mr. Bongani, do you, on your end, maybe we can do a parting shot?
Yeah, my parting shot is this. Do not assign a level of difficulty to something you haven't given your full effort to.
It went over my head.
You see, invo ilkuni ngoba uvela omunye asha awuzange soyizama awuzange so apply awuzange so buke ngakhuluma ngeSwati awuzange so buke ukuthi lama results ami labathi mabi atangenisa yini masters ndijaja mine, right? Mina angizange sangirun ibusiness ngeke ngikhone lo msebenzi lo njanjani ngeke ngiwukhone ngeke ngikhone asesiyekeleni umoya wekungakhoni. And it's such a young person thing, and I there is so much you guys can do. You're almost unlimited in your reach, in what you can do, in what you can produce. In one lifetime, there's a man born in South Africa who's in his early 50s, who's made enough money to run South Africa, Kusali Shinji, Elon Musk, in one lifetime. And he was a young person, Nagatal. He never saw defeat, right? We have to look in ourselves and tap into the spaces that are unlimited. Draw from those, not from limitations and hurts and all the things that have happened. Draw from the richness of your souls. There's so much there. Yeah.
Yo. You know, when the man speaks, your hair starts tingling, eh? Profound things that Mr. Lang is saying, and I think we have worn out our panelists. I think at this point it wouldn't be fair for them to continue at this particular point. The question that I would have for you is, did this session serve the purpose in which it set out to? Louder, I can't hear you. Did it do that? It did. That's great. So we have done our job, and I think at this point, let's keep it there, because I think if we give other parting shots now, we need to maintain that. Ours as young people is that we are here. We can't say we can't. You're not a Mexi can't, you're a Mexi. At least you know English. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much from us. The lovely panel here, very amazing conversations. The UNDP and World Food Program under this partnership will be doing a entrepreneurship program during the festival. A select number of young people as entrepreneurs has received an opportunity to be taken through a guided tour of the festival to also understand how products can be packaged and how they can actually be sold to people, so that maybe next year they can be part of the traders that are here. Stay tuned. We will be at the festival. For those that got tickets, if you didn't get a ticket, you can watch it online. Remember to bring your fire. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Yeah. Yeah, but the time is over now. You can go now. Are you waiting for...
Can we